Hi, Roy here on my channel Roy Reads Anything, where I talk about old books that are strange or interesting or just weird. And this is a quick video introducing a new series I'd like to do, which, with your indulgence, I would like to do it, if you let me. That is what I'm going to call Around My Shelves in 80 Stories. So the idea is I've got lots of books on shelves and shelf tours. People like shelf tours. That's one thing. Also, a lot of these books don't get enough reading. They get bought, they get put either in order or just randomly, and kind of maybe feeling a bit neglected. And a lot of them are collections of short stories. So the plan is work my way along the shelves, and then when I get to a book with short stories in it, I read one of the stories, make a video about the book, and tell you about it. Okay, so it's like a little bit of a review thing, looking at a book, looking at some stories. So broadly speaking, the rules are I'll start at one end, I'll work my way along in order. When I find short stories, read a story, and if there's a run of books by the same author or maybe in the same theme, I'm allowed to skip further ahead. So say when I get to the year's best fantasy stories, there's 6 of these collections, maybe I'll just read one of them as if it's like sort of one book. Um, so that's a thing. I think that kind of makes sense. So I have started. So you can't see it. I've got Ulysses, not short stories. The Monkeys Annual hasn't really got short stories in it. A book about Victorian comics, non-fiction. Frankenstein is a novel. These are some comics. So the first actual collection I came to was The Complete Chronicles of Conan, which was a Christmas present from Dr. Jenny last year. So yes, she is there. I'm here. The Complete Chronicles of Conan by Robert E. Howard, a single volume collection of all of his Conan stories with some other bits and pieces as well. So these are stories that I have got already in various forms. As a book, I can see why it stayed in print all this for a while. It's a great single volume way of having all of Conan. You want Conan, you basically want the real deal, which is the Robert E. Howard stories. The absolute best collections are published by Del Rey, 3 volumes. Um, but this is absolutely fine, and a really good. If I was, Desert Island Discs, you're allowed to take one book. This would probably be the book because it's a book. So, like I said, I read these various forms. Still got my much loved Sphere paperback collections from when I was young. These were basically Lancer books in America, published Conan stuff, Robert E. Howard stories, and some later pastiches like mixed together, which at the time made no never mind. It was all the same. If it had Conan in it, I was there. Whereas come to appreciate that the Robert E. Howard ones are the best. So they're, again, knowing that I sometimes fail to explain the key fact, these are sword and sorcery stories. So a type of adventure tale set in a fantasy world, I suppose, is a shorthand way of saying what sword and sorcery is. Conan, these stories probably define the genre, and there's been movies and that kind of thing. So in order to follow my own rules, reading obviously a reread. Like I said, I've read these many times. I read The Scarlet Citadel So just one thing about the book, it has illustrations. I'm again it. Illustrations in books? No. There's places for illustrations and art. Um, I prefer not to come across them. I don't really need to know what an axe looks like at this juncture. But as illustrations go, they're absolutely splendid. So yeah, the Scarlet Citadel. The organising principle of this collection seems to have been publication order, more or less. So before you get as far as the story, you get a map, the map of Conan's world, with northern kingdoms at the top, including Cimmeria, where Conan comes from. Um, Various nations which have sort of, this is a prehistoric age, but they have kind of analogues in real history. Okay, so it sort of gives him the ultimate adventure setting to wander through. Sidebar, I'm going to try to say less ums. I can't edit them out, otherwise the videos would be like some weird staccato art movie, and they take 5 weeks to make. On the other hand, it vexes me to hear me umming and ahhing all the time. And I know this isn't like some kind of professional presentation, it's just me chatting to some friends, really. On the other hand, I like to do it as well as possible. Yeah, what am I saying? What do you get? You get a big list of Robert E. Howard's work. You get an introduction. He done it again, you see. What I need is some kind of like whip of scorpions to chastise myself every time I do an
I'm sure we can make that possible, dear.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We hire a whipper.
I'll just go out to the scorpion cages.
Yeah.
See if there's enough of them yet.
Left over from the Fu Manchu book. Yes, so before you get to the sequential stories, you get an essay about the Hyborian Age. Now, I wouldn't start with these. If you buy this book and you think, what's Conan all about? What's sword and sorcery all about? You don't really need to read that essay, and I think there might be a poem. Just plunge into the stories. But it is interesting reading in publication order, because you can put yourself in the sort of headspace of readers in the 1930s, buying Weird Tales, Pulp magazine, buying it from your drugstore or newsstand, one of those strange American things, and finding this material. So you would have read The Phoenix on the Sword, with a King Conan in an adventure, and you would have read Come to the Scarlet Citadel. And here again, Conan is this king. So based on this, you'd be thinking, oh yeah, Robert E. Howard's Conan stories, they're the ones about that king guy. They're not all like that. They jump around in his chronology. So he might be a wandering thief, or a mercenary, as a younger barbarian. But this time he's king of Aquilonia, which is a sort of medieval France kind of big kingdom.
Is it anywhere near Latveria?
No, it's not near Latveria.
Sorry.
Well, it's not in any sense that near Latveria. But they are, because just dealing with Dr. Jenny's point of doctrine. Given that Marvel Comics published Conan the Barbarian for a while, there were periods where he is in the Marvel universe. So yes, you could say that Latveria, home of Doctor Doom, and back in prehistory, Aquilonia did sort of occupy the same fictional geography.
Right.
Yes. Okay, so the Scarlet Citadel starts off like a historical novel full of battles, and I'm glad I've read Talbot Mundy, another there. Talbot Mundy's historical adventures with a little bit of fantasy element. They were an influence on Howard, so you sort of see a bit where he's coming from. So Conan loses this big battle, and he's captured. So basically, you get this kind of very colourful adventure stuff, but then you've got an evil magician, and then amazing scenes where Conan is captured and he's in this dungeon beneath a citadel, a Scarlet Citadel, and it's got kind of Lovecraftian horror, and it's very creepy. The way the monsters and the threats are done, it's really good kind of horror writing, really. So you sort of got historical style adventure mingled in with this horror story, and it Conan prevails. There is bloodshed and fighting, and it's real page turning stuff, very pulpy. I was struck on this reread how the language is kind of not archaic exactly, but it's like historical novel language. You get so used to reading fantasy books now where people speak in modern vernacular, and it's not that. Equally, it's not sort of hard to hard to read Jacobean English or anything like that. So yeah, I think was struck by how this fusion works. So what it isn't is genre fantasy, because there wasn't a fantasy genre. So Howard couldn't sit down and thought, let's write a fantasy story. He took elements of things he liked, put them together. They worked together really well, and creating a genre really. Again, that probably wasn't his aim either. He was wanted to sell stories, to tell the kind of stories he wanted to tell, and to sell them to make a living. Other stuff feeds into this too. There are some stories that have more kind of frontier, almost frontier western kind of angle to them too. So yes, I enjoyed revisiting the Hyborian Age and Conan, and for the certainly not for the last time, and also just appreciating the book. Probably not a book I'm going to sit down and read cover to cover, because lots of other stuff I want to read. But good to know they're here. The ultimate portable portable Conan. So hooray for
Pocket
the complete.
size.
It is pocket size. Yes, you can swallow it like a tablet. I've not noticed this quote on the back. Howard was the Thomas Wolfe of fantasy, and most of his Conan tales seem to almost fall over themselves in their need to get out, says Stephen King. So, yep, good point. Yep, this is the one to get if you're interested in sword and sorcery. Don't read anything else other than Robert E. Howard. Get yourself one of these. If you don't like, I mean, I did like the Scarlet Citadel, um, but I would probably say Tower of the Elephant. Read the Tower of the Elephant wherever you might find it. That'll give you your insight into the world of sword and sorcery, I would say. So good. So my short story odyssey has started. Next, moving on. The shelves do move around. I'm not saying they have to stay fixed in position, but I'll see what the next short story collection I find is when I fancy doing one of these, whenever that is. I think my master plan at the moment is to launch so many series that I just can kind of pick and choose something to do according to mood. So not so much a mood reader as a mood creator of videos like this. Okay, coming up to the magic hour of 15 minutes. I will.
That's magic minutes.
Well, yeah, but it's an hour in booktube years.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Obvious.
yes, good. Just we were so close to finishing, and now I've been thrown off my stride.
Sorry.
Now
I'm sorry.
I'm,
Oh,
I'm holding a sharpie. I don't know why I'm holding a sharpie.
maybe you're just
I don't
gonna
know how to finish.
pencil it out.
Yes, just scrub my. I could draw over the draw over the lens. Yeah, so
Draw a moustache on you. That'd be a laugh.
yeah, it would be vaguely amusing, I suppose. Perhaps not amusing enough to actually do.
Sorry.
Right, I'm calling it. Thanks everybody. See you next time.